This episode of the Hunt Stealth podcast is brought to you by ReadyWise Outdoor. When you're chasing adventure, you need energy you can count on. ReadyWise Pro Meals are packed with over 30 grams of protein and 500 plus calories per serving to keep you energized no matter the terrain. From the protein-packed breakfast skillet to the Thai coconut cashew curry, these lightweight, freeze-dried meals are ready in minutes. Made in the USA, ReadyWise is built for hunters and explorers just like you. Visit ReadyWiseOutdoor.com and use promo code RYAN20 to save 20% off your next order.
You're listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast with Ryan Uffens. The podcast where we dive headfirst into the wild. Whether you're an aspiring hunter or an adventurer seeking the untamed, together we'll explore the strategies and stories that lead to success in the great outdoors.
Welcome to another episode of the Hunt Stealth Podcast. Today we're with Nic Del Prete. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Yep, absolutely.
Booyah. Also known AKA Dr. Outdoors. So super excited to have him on the program and be able to talk to him a little about his hunting journey and some things that he's experienced throughout his life. So welcome, Nic.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much, man. You guys are awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. So tell me a little bit, I want to know what got you into like hunting. Tell me about like your transition and I know you we talked a little bit before we kind of started, but you were kind of brought up with some cool experiences. So why don't you jump into that?
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much right off the bat, my dad was a hunting guide out here, born and raised in Colorado. I was born just outside of Denver, actually, and he used to guide up in the White River National Forest. So since before I could even walk, I've been going in the woods, everything with him, fishing, camping. My mom would be out there with us too when they were still married, and my sister, of course. So it was a different type of lifestyle and
a family affair.
Yes, exactly. And it was all year long. I mean, with what we were doing, my grandfathers, both of them really instilled kind of the hunting tradition. My grandfather on my mother's side was very much raised in, you take out one shot with a shotgun and you better bring back 2 rabbits down in Georgia. So he was super old school. And then, of course, my grandfather on my dad's side, who lived in New York for a long time, he just hunted as much as he could in the Catskills, and they were very successful for a long, long time. And it's just grown from there. There's a lot of different experiences you can have in one state. I mean, I'm sure you understand that, especially for Utah. But yeah. Colorado, for me, it's just so hard to leave. I love it so much. There's so much to offer. And I'm glad that more and more people experience it because it's just going to lock all that public land in, hopefully, for the future to come.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, that's one of the neat things I think about, hunting the outdoors, like hearing all these different stories of like the lineage of people that have had it passed down. And that's how I think most people that get into hunting kind of have it. It's just something that, it's a generational thing. Like it just gets passed down and the knowledge and information. So it's fun to see that side of it. And then you've got guys like me and my son who we're new to it. We're trying to figure it out. And we've been lucky enough to hook up with some people that know exactly what they're doing. And we're looking forward to next year getting in and getting after it. So what have you, awesome. Tell me about this season. What were you able to do this season?
This season was rough. I'm still carrying a whitetail tag, which ends in a few days. And then I have a plains elk tag, which I kind of grabbed just more so for fun. Give me a few extra days out, more
Sure.
than anything. They're very limited in number. Even the whitetail tag that I have is it's considered a non-native species tag, where they don't want them, in specific units. So they just do OTC. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough hunt too. It's mostly private land. Thankfully, we did have a couple of spots we were given access to, but of course the deer weren't there. But yeah, it started out in bow season like it always does. And I took a couple of friends from Texas who actually have some property. And little girl, sorry, dog.
No, you're good. You're good.
They came up from Texas. We hunted a few days with them, and I give them a lot of credit because I feel like the country I took them into was relatively mild. I won't say easy in any form, but pretty mild, and they did great. It was just really the last day One of them was like, man, I got to sleep in. I can't do it again. I said, oh, that's not a problem. Sure enough, we go out, Justin and I, and call a bull into him, and it walks to me 10 steps. He didn't have a shot at all, but his eyes just got big and he was so excited. And we got back to camp and he told Tyler, he's like, man, you should have been there. You would have gotten the shot, this and that. And I just love that excitement. And then from there, it just kind of built. I did end up hunting a few days for myself in bow season, called in a little bull. Unfortunately, just made a kind of a dumb mistake, not being patient. The bull started working around to my right, a little bit outside of my comfort zone. And I thought if I shifted and kind of paralleled him, I'd actually get a better angle. And of course, made too much movement, immediately saw us, and then he buggered out of there. And then, yeah. And that happens. I mean, this is my first year actually getting back into bow for myself.
Oh, right on.
I put the bow down just because I wasn't comfortable. I had actually shot a doe in 2019 and felt good. Buried the arrow behind her shoulder, 40 yards, quartering away, all the way to the fletching. And yeah, I never found her. She ran for 300 yards straight and then crossing private. So it was heart-wrenching. It was just, I was sick. And put the bow down. Next year in 2020, shot my bull. 21 shot my deer. 22 shot my bear. And then last year we ended up shooting 4 cows in late season hunt, 3 on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, right on.
So it's been wild to say the least. But and then we've been doing some part-time guiding, which I did last year as well, but I'm doing it for a different gentleman a little bit closer to home. So that helps.
Oh, nice.
And we ended up taking, I think, 2 bulls and 6 deer, 2 of them being whitetail. So
still a good season, man. I mean, it sounds like you've got plenty of time out there, like out in the hills, getting the work in. So
yeah,
a lot of times just being able to get out there, man, is nice for sure.
Yeah, yep. And I know I'm overly blessed as far as being able to take hunting days from work. So what's up? You want to say hello? Big girl? What are you doing?
She's like, what are you doing? I'm coming to talk to you. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I got my German Shepherd. He's right down here. Roscoe, you want to come say hi? He's like, what's up? Come on. He's like, I'm not supposed to jump up on you. He's like, are you sure? He's right here. Right. Anyway, he's like, yeah, you're crazy. I'm not jumping up on you. But anyway, yeah, dude, it's fun to have those pets around. They keep you company. They're always excited to see you when you walk in the door. So,
that's fun. 100%. They're great.
Hey, Nick, tell me a little bit about some of like your favorite hunting experiences that you've had. Like, is there anything that stands out that comes to mind?
Of course, it's always hard to pick like just a couple because I could ramble on this stuff for days.
We got plenty of time, man. We can dig into a couple of them. So just whatever you feel comfortable with, like let's jump into it.
Absolutely. The very first true, what I would consider is like what was a defining moment, and it wasn't even my hunt. I was too young, this and that. I was following my dad. He was hunting, and we were going after mule deer. And just up there hanging out in outside of Meeker. Sure enough, we find some does and we kind of start working into them. And all of a sudden this buck pops out of the drainage and starts going up the hill. And I can picture it to this day, him just bouncing away from us. And I mean, he was just a perfect Colorado mule deer. He had a couple extras on him and this and that. And of course, had no idea what that truly meant back then. But he was just a perfect representation of Colorado mule deer. And that to this day is the memory that sticks out the most. We followed him up the hill. He hopped over a fence and we tried to stay with him, but that's just impossible in any country, let alone open country. But that's, I just remember my dad and I talking about that continuously. And that's really what has driven me to share it with people, because I want them to have that same feeling of just like, this is absolutely amazing and we need to do it more often. So, and then, I mean, last year was another great year. Last year, we probably took more elk than we needed to. We ended up with 11 elk in total.
Wow.
Started out taking my best friend, my brother, And I'm not going to call him my buddy. That's an inside joke to Charles Jernigan, because he likes to call me his buddy when he introduces me to people. And we've been friends for too long for me to be a buddy. So, yeah, I took him out, and we've been talking about doing a bow hunt for a long, long time since we were kids. And called in a bull for him. Was just, I think that's truly my defining moment in a sense of my personal attributes and what I've been able to accomplish. Putting that bull in front of him, 20 yards, 17 yards was exactly what I was hoping for. And it was just difficult situations, tough unit. There's everyone says that, of course, but it worked out just like we hoped. And we heard bugles every day. We never ran into another hunter. I mean, it was just the perfect season, I think, for him and me. So
yeah, how do you do that? Go out and not run into another hunter.
Yeah, we've got a spot locked in pretty well. I mean, I don't no bragging or anything like that. It's still public land. There's nothing to it. But yeah, in 5 years of going into this country, from all of the seasons to shed hunting, I've never ran into another person. So I've ran into him at trailheads, and
is it
then
tough country?
met a guy that actually. Oh yeah, it's 4 miles of blowdown each way before you even get into the good stuff.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah,
there's there's the secret.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that nobody wants to go into.
100%. I know when I get the tag, it'll be the most miserable pack out I'm on, but I'm thankful that I have friends and brothers that'll come through, because it's not going to be a good day. We're all going to be pissed off afterwards, or they're going to be pissed off at me, at least, for making them go down there.
But still, well, that's cool. And so you guys did get one down there?
He didn't. I just don't want to blow him up, but he missed, unfortunately. He was excited, typical, shaking, eyes out of his head. But he was just living in the moment. He was so appreciative of the time spent. And then, like I said, we hunted, I think, 3 or 4 more days after that, and just elk every day. We had we worked this drainage pretty dang good, and the elk were still coming back in there. We sat wallow a couple of times in the morning because it seemed like they were hitting water early on the cameras. And then we kind of push around in the afternoon for bedding zones. And yeah, we had 3 bulls at one point screaming for 2.5 hours. And I'd work down the ridge, work up the ridge. I'd drop down to them, come back up. I mean, it was just not happening. And we could hear them glunking and everything right next to us. Just thick timber. You couldn't see 50 yards. And we ended up walking out of there, but smiles on our face, appreciating the moment, reflecting on all the years of friendship that we've had together and all the stuff we've gone through was perfect. I don't think, other than getting a bull, I don't think it could have ended any better.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times, I mean, like we talk about, I mean, with everybody, it's an incredible opportunity to spend quality time with friends and family that you can't get doing like other sports or there's certain activities you get together, you may be together for a couple hours like this. Like when you guys went in, was it like a day thing, or did you guys go back and spend a couple of days out there?
No, we just kind of go in for the day. I didn't take him nearly as far into some of the spots I normally would go. I had scouted a ton throughout the summer, had cameras up all year, and found him a couple of spots that were somewhat reasonable. He'll deny it to this day. He hates it. He was cussing me out the whole time. But yeah, it was just day things. And when we come back to the house, because I mean, I'm very blessed. I have a house that's pretty much 10 minutes, 15 minutes from elk country in every direction. So,
that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
What else?
And,
what else is there anything? Go ahead.
Yeah, the cow hunt. Like I mentioned, late season cow tag. We had we had 4 people that had tags, and first one went down opening day, and then Thanksgiving morning we ended up shooting 3 within basically an hour and a half of each other. Had to call in some help for that as well, but we had them all out before we went to go for Thanksgiving dinner at 3 p.m. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was just a crazy bonding experience to have all of those guys up there. And be ridiculously tired from being up all night, talking crap and riling each other up, and still being able to go in there and just get it done, get the meat
Pushing
out,
buttons.
and then spent
Yeah.
2 days butchering.
Dude, that's
So
that sounds like success right there.
absolutely was.
Hey, tell me a little bit.
The
You
last
mentioned.
one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, just want to do one more because have to do this one. There's no way I can with Jordan being on here with you guys on one of the last podcasts. I definitely have to mention the Hush Hunt
Yeah.
Trip Bull on YouTube. I'm sure tons of people have seen it already. That was another insane moment, and being out there on the mountain with Eric and Matt and Jordan was eye-opening to say the least. And I still say it to this day. I will never be able to thank them enough. And I don't think they understand, even just besides the elk, besides the success, the brotherhood that Jordan and Eric shared with each other. One of the first nights I was hanging out with them was hugely beneficial to me, and understanding, your tribe, which Jordan references at the end of that hunt. It was highlight of my year, and then we ended up shooting 4 cows. So it was like hard to see which one was the better one, but the Hush Hunt definitely took it.
That's awesome. Is there anything that, like, when you were out that those guys shared with you, like that you can share that's impactful? I mean, I don't want you, like I said, Jordan mentioned that you guys had like a super cool experience on the mountain, and he told me that if you want to share it, that's on you. And I don't want you, if it's private, like it's private, but if it's something that you want to share, I want to be able to, maybe let you give you a chance to get that message out that maybe it could help somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, there's I kind of broke down a few things per individual. I tried to see, like, okay, well, I feel like Eric does. Eric is a map reader. I mean, that dude can break down country so fast in a short amount of time that he's truly probably never even gone to before, and he can just visualize the map differently than anyone. So I tried to pick his brain on what he's looking at, what features are going to kind of direct him more. That area I hadn't been into personally, but I had tons of pins from a bunch of other people. So they sent me a flood of information, and then I was able to relay that. And then the day before I actually linked up with them, I spent driving around, finding access, looking at different glassing knobs, kind of seeing what I feel like the pressure is, which that time of year, pressure is usually low because the snow's heavy. However, we established very quickly that the rivers, the creeks and streams and all that were only freezing up at night, and they were thawing out pretty quick during the day. Once the sun hit, the sunny slopes were just lit up like crazy, and there was hardly any snow on them. There's different aspects like that, and it's always going to be dependent on the country you're going into. But being able to adapt on the fly, and like I said, I commend Eric tremendously for it, because, I mean, that dude can find elk. I mean, truly, it's insane how his mind works, and I don't fully understand all of it. But watching him just, as he glassed up those bulls. Actually, we glassed up a bunch of different elk. First set was just to blow us, a couple thousand yards, but it was workable. And then he glassed another set over here with some cows, and that was a bigger group. And then all of a sudden, way in the back corner, he's just like, oh yeah, those are elk. Golden bodies, just perfect. Couldn't even see their antlers. They were so far away. But just had the confidence and knowledge base of where they were at. They had to be bulls. Start scrolling that map using Onyx like crazy. And within 20 minutes, he was like, I have access for us. So we're going to get out of here, go get some breakfast. We'll go around to this access, and we'll get up on top of them. And then that's exactly what we did. It took a little work to get up there. The road was open, thankfully, because that's also something people need to pay attention to, is just because it says it's accessible on a map, any map, doesn't mean that road is actually open. They change it. It depends on what the snow's doing. So,
right.
But yeah, we got in there pretty quick, sat on them for the afternoon, and then put the hammer down. They did.
That's awesome.
So, and then Matt, I kind of picked his brain on equipment, what he's using camera wise, what he's using, editing wise, what he thinks about for shots, shot angles. I love the way, even for him, again, he's very good at what he does, and the footage they put together is amazing. So just kind of picked his brain on how that would how that plays out in his mind. And he's going, 10 steps ahead, thinking about, okay, we need these shots as we're going along. I want to make sure I do this part, reminding Eric to do kind of updates and this and that. The team is just so cohesive with each other. And that's the biggest takeaway I took, from that experience is if you're not in a good team sometimes, even though you love them, they're great people, best friends, whatever the case may be, sometimes the communication can be off. And that's not any fault of anybody's. It's just you click with people differently. So
you're talking like the filming process, right? So you're saying Matt's like, he's like taking the time to like pre-plan to like film this hunt to be able to capture it. He's looking at different angles to shoot, to get information. And you're saying he's asking, like reminding Eric, like, hey, you need to give us an update on what we're doing so they can capture that and kind of piece everything together. So it's not just,
Eric is so focused.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it's not just like, well, like if I were to go out and try and film a hunt, it would be Bush League. It's like, here, you record, let's just go. Let's just capture as much stuff as we can. So it's a production. It's a production that a lot of these guys that put the good films together, I mean, they're taking the time to treat it like a profession. For some of these guys, that is their profession, and I think that's way cool. So I hadn't really thought about that part of it. I mean, you look at guys like Brian Call and all these other guys that are in the space that just produce these incredible films, and yeah, you forget sometimes. It's like you just think they're out hunting, and for some people maybe they can, but yeah, the way that they make sure to capture the moment and the right angles and share the message along the way is probably premeditated, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, they do it amazingly. We all enjoy it. And it comes down to them having that game plan established. Matt knows what he's looking for when he's going in. He knows how he's going to attain that. Carries a lot of cameras. And yeah, he taught me a little bit, thankfully, because I was able to, when they're all holding their bulls out and everything, I was able to do some of those shots. I was able to run the camera while they're all talking. And it just, again, it's on a different level that most people don't experience. I relate it to an old Randy Newberg video that he had and his film crew. And like they're filming, a couple extra hours a day of stuff that they may not use. They're just going to record it, just leave the cameras running type of thing in case they capture something. Where instead, Matt is very methodical. He's just like, okay, we're going to set up. I have this camera facing this way. I'm going to do this one. We also have this on the spotter, and it's very, very meticulous, and it's perfect. It ends up coming out perfect.
Yeah, I think to me, what it reminds me of, it's taking the time to prep and plan your hunt. And then you add like that other layer of, okay, we know how we're going to approach this hunt and how we're going to go try and attack and find the animals. And okay, once we get on the elk or the mule deer or bear or whatever it is, we're going to take the time to get into the right position. So now you're just layering on top of that, like the filming process, right? Like I said, being premeditated with like, we need to make sure that we check these boxes along the way. I think it's cool that they've got such a great crew to be able to go out. And it's like, like you mentioned Randy, and then I think of like when I was talking with Donnie, Vincent back 3 months ago, I think it was when I sat down with him, and he was telling us that he's like, dude, he goes, I could not film another thing and we could release one film a year for the next 10 years. And I'm like, do it. Like, get after it. So, it's taking the time to just make sure that you capture the footage. And if that's what you want to do, if that's your thing, a lot of people don't care. Like they just want to go out, get after the hunt and, get the picture of them with their animal down. And I mean, a lot of people don't share it. It's just for them and it's personal. And I love that. And it's just, I even think with like Eric Clark, he's like, it's your tag, like hunt it however you want to. If you want to try and build like, a profile around that, do it. If you just want to go out and shoot a little forky and that makes you happy, do it. Just do whatever makes you happy. So that's one of the things for me that I love about hunting in this industry. It's like there's so many, like you can do it for you. It's like you said, like you had a successful year because you've been able to spend, I think you said like almost 50 days out helping people, between helping people and hunting yourself, and just that time outdoors. It to me, like the more time I spend outside, like the happier I am, like the more clarity I have in just like all aspects of my life, the things that just normally grind me down and just make me upset and make me depressed, just put me into like a depression. It's just I'm able to just knock that stuff away and push it aside and come back, and it's like hitting like a reset button, right? It's the old the old adage, like you work in IT, right? It's the, hey, did you turn the computer off and turn it back on? That's kind of what it is. It's a reset a lot of times, and like everything might not be fixed, but you're going to at least be like operating functionally again for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. No, you said it. The perfect word I think for it is clarity. Um, there's so much going on in everyone's daily life. There's so much going on in the world. It's hard to fully disconnect, shut that Wi-Fi off, and just go enjoy. And the outdoors does that. It's just exactly. I think it's exactly what I need personally. Is to spend days out there with people that I appreciate, that are willing to put in the time, and regardless of whether or not we're successful, we're laughing, we're enjoying it. There's miserable hikes I've taken friends on. My name is Dr. Outdoors on Instagram, but I keep joking. I'm more of the Grim Reaper. If you hike with me, it's going to be a rough one, especially the first one out. So just be ready. That's just kind of how I do it. I like to kind of test people essentially on the first one, see what they're made of, see how much they truly want to put in. Guiding, I had to dial that back a little bit because we don't want to be calling search and rescue.
You don't want to you don't want them to get upset right out the gate, right? But I think it's good, like when you're guiding somebody, and Jay Scott had even talked about that a little bit, is like you want to push them, but you have to understand the expectations up front. It's like if you're, whether you're hiring a guide or whether you're a guide, I think it's incredible advice just to get both, like, hey, what do you want out of this hunt? Like, do you want me to push you to get a bull down or to get a buck or whatever it is that we're hunting? Or do we just want to go out and have like a really good experience? And it doesn't matter if we walk away with our tag punched or not. And I just think identifying that, especially when we're going out with the guide, I would imagine, from getting to know you a little bit here, Nick, is like you're a guy that wants to help somebody punch the tag, and you're going to push them to whatever they're willing to push. But you're also like, if they just want to go out and enjoy the experience and try and get on an animal, and if they can get it done, great. If not, like, everyone can walk away happy. I mean, I think that's amazing, but just make sure to take the time to set those expectations up. Even if you're taking a buddy out, like you said, hey, if you're going to come, like I'm thinking, because like I'd love to get out with you sometime and get on the mountain, and I'm going, okay, mental note, if I ever go out with the Grim Reaper, like better make sure that I got my cardio up, and I'm going to be doing like the mountain hikes with my weighted pack before I go out with Nick. Otherwise,
I mean, I'll bring oxygen for you.
I'm getting older, man. I'm about to the point that I need oxygen.
Yeah. No, I mean, perfect example. Last year, had some guys out second rifle. Snow came in heavy. We were in the high country, and road host is back 7 or 8 miles from the trailhead, so there was no just dropping it and getting out. They kind of had to just sit through. And one gentleman was up every single morning, like clockwork, ready to go, had no issues. Just kept asking, how do we do this? How do we play this? I mean, just so intrigued in the whole process. He unfortunately was not successful, but he loved every bit of it. And then in reverse,
left it all out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They were.
And I think that's one of the biggest things, Nick, to me, is that like, if you go in and you kind of like half-ass a hunt, like you can't leave and be like pissed. Oh, I didn't get anything. Well, like, did you give it everything that you got? Because if you did, then you shouldn't be upset. You can be upset that you didn't do it, but you're not going to leave with regrets. It's like, we just didn't work. But if you go in and it's like, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep in today, And then like you were talking about, and with another friend of yours that you had taken out, you had the one guy who got out and didn't have a shot, but he was on a bull. And then if you have somebody else there that's with you, the other guy that was there, had he been able to get up? And again, I'm not judging. I'm just saying,
Oh yeah.
if you're out there and you sleep in, like that's one less angle. Like somebody probably could have, if you have two people, that's two different angles that you have an opportunity to try and get on a bull. And if you both have tags and you're both willing to be like, hey, whoever has the shot, take it, dude, you're going to leave with an animal, you know? And,
Yep.
and there's that, but just, you shouldn't, as long as you leave it all out there, it's that Mamba mentality, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I was listening to him on a podcast over the weekend, and he was talking about one of the playoff games that he was in, and his back was just killing him. And he's in his mind, he's going like, I don't know if I can do this. He's like, no, dude, your back will hurt tomorrow. Like, go get the job finished right now. And like that dude's like another level too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
I was
hate it
actually
as a
referencing.
Utah Jazz fan, dude. Like I
Oh,
hated Kobe. Like growing up, like
yeah.
I hated Kobe, I hated Jordan. But now looking back and separating like them just dominating us, right? And looking at the careers that they have and like the work that they put in, like how do you not respect them? And
No kidding.
I look at it going like, man, I wished I had given him a little bit more credit when, when he was in his playing days and stuff like that. But hindsight's always 2020.
Right. I actually referenced him earlier today for some of my coworkers, and it was actually kind of being more sarcastic than anything, but it actually worked out perfectly. And they were like, "Oh, Nick, you do this and you do this," and it's like, "Okay, cool, but we're a team. Like we gotta get this done." And they were like, "Well, you could do this." I forget the exact context of it, and well, I was like, "Okay, well, so I'll just take over." And I'll just Kobe Bryant this stuff right now. And I said, I'll just take over and get it done. And then I sent him the old quote that's like he's talking to the reporter, and the reporter says, he's like, "There's no I in team," and Kobe's like, "No, but there's an ME in that." It's like, if you want me to take over, I'll take over. But there's opportunities, especially in the woods. It's not guiding. It's not my hunt. Tell me what you're looking for. The guys we had this year, first season rifle, awesome gentlemen from Ohio, just had a hard time hiking. They were there every step. They just had to stop a lot, but it was rough getting them into the country, and you could see it on their faces. Not that they were trying to show it because they're tough, but
Yeah.
it finally came to the point of like, okay, well, what's the last couple of things you want to experience? I don't know. We're not going to get you into a herd of bugling bulls or anything like that. But what do you want to see? What do you want to hear? What do you want to, what else can I do for you? And it just came down to, I want to see some bulls rutting, pushing cows, typical what everyone looks for. And we actually ended up having some bulls screaming first thing in the morning. So I left 2 hunters kind of on this back ridge, and then we had a couple of guys down the drainage. And I worked around this ridge line, got up and over this saddle, and came up underneath the bulls and just started screaming at the one bull. He immediately wanted to get his cows away from me, so he started pushing right towards my hunters, came over this crest on this sunny slope, and granted, it was too far of a shot for them, rifle-wise, but they got to watch a couple of bulls scream their heads off, pushing cows, start fighting a little bit. The one bull came out to the edge of the trees and literally would just stand there and bugle over and over and over, and that was the best thing for them. They couldn't have imagined going any better. So it's definitely perceptive on people, what they're looking for and how much they can do. If you're willing to push, we'll go. I'm not scared of any country. There's no country in Colorado that scares me. I love it. I enjoy it. It's a challenge for me just as it is as much for them.
It's because you're a beast, man. I mean, I
love
I
it.
know this when I talk to a lot of people that when they go out like into the backcountry for the first time, and I remember like that was the one thing like I had really prepared myself to get into the backcountry when we had gone out. So like I felt confident, and I still got gassed out. I mean, it was like day 3, but I was able to keep going. I wasn't going fast, but I was able just to keep moving. And people that haven't experienced that, like if you've grown up doing like whitetail hunting, like you're not really going into a whole lot of backcountry. I mean, it depends on what part of the country you're coming from, but for the most part, like you're not really having to push like super hard. Maybe long
Right.
days, you're sitting in tree stands and stuff like that. And not to discount like whitetail hunters, but when you start trying to get after bulls like in the rut, you had better come prepared because that mountain will chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah.
And it's
It'll throw something different at you every year. I
yeah,
don't know. It, so I live basically right at the base of the Sangre de Cristo mountain range. And in my opinion, it's some of the steepest, nastiest blowdown country you can get into. It's an OTC unit. It's insanely pressured, even though it's tough. But the thing about the pressure is it's a lot of ATV roads and a lot of trailheads and things like that. You drop off into these drainages, even though they suck, and you get into elk pretty quick. I was talking to a friend of mine who had his wife up there, and he'd be like, I'm not hearing anything. I'm not hearing anything. Not, seeing a lot of sign, just not hearing anything. And I mean, every day that I took people up there, and even for myself, hunted a few days up there, it was like bulls were talking. They might have been a little bit quieter. They're not ripping their heads off. But multiple times we were able to kind of listen for some mews and then kind of hear a bull working up the drainage as long as we kind of tucked in. It's so different from area to area. The other unit that I hunt a lot, they're quiet. They don't talk for whatever reason. You can do everything possible. You can use Corey Jacobson's playbook to a T, his Elk 101 schooling to a T. I mean, maybe he just needs to come out here and show me what it is, but they don't fire up the same way. And it's a draw unit, less pressured. It just kind of throws you off. And then the weather, of course, Colorado, the last 2 years, basically the second week of September has had a foot of snow in the high country. And that just makes everything get that much more difficult. All the logs you can't see that you're tripping over. You step on something wrong and you're slipping down the hill. And that's gets into a dangerous situation when you've got newcomers to the mountains. So, you have to play it as best you can while still tailoring it, like you said, to what they want to experience.
yeah. When you take somebody out and you help them, or even when you go, like how many miles do you cover like on an average day, just for like folks that maybe are new thinking about getting into elk hunting, just to like prepare, what would you say is your average?
Yeah, Sangres are pretty. Like I said, they're tougher. I think if I'm really pushing myself, I'm doing maybe 5 or 6. If I'm walking like a trailhead or something like that, then I get a little bit more because I can walk the trailhead kind of quick. Shorten the distance of where I'm actually going to go to. But if I'm just like picking a ridge and then going to bust off of there and then drop into the drainage, yeah, probably like 5 miles, 6 miles at the most because it's pretty rough. But then some of the other country that we go that's a little bit further west, it's not as much blowdown. It's very picturesque Colorado, beautiful aspen, thick aspen groves, really heavy, tall ponderosas. So it's not super like dense necessarily. You're doing, you could do 7-8 miles in that. I've been dumb and done 12. I shot my deer. And yeah, it was 6 miles one way from the truck. That was dumb. And it was just me and one other person. And yeah, it was a friend of mine, Maria, and she carried 4 deer quarters and I carried the rest. And we just kept saying, let's go, let's keep pushing it. And at that moment, for me personally, what works is literally just firing myself up. I talk crap. I said, you want this, let's go. This is the time to do it. You want to step up. You want to be about this, kind of razzling myself. But yeah, I've put myself in worse situations, thankfully. Hiking back into a spot and going so deep that we have to cut out to the highway and then walk 7 miles on the highway in the pitch black, no food, no water, no extra clothes, no nothing. Ryan and I have gotten stuck on the mountain in hailstorms, lightning and thunder, don't have the phone working. The phone screen goes black and Onyx isn't working, no mapping. I mean, it's just different. It just depends. And I look at it now, thankful, came out of those situations okay, learned something from it. But sometimes you can't prepare for everything that can go on.
There's a book that I would say anybody that's planning to go out and do like a tough like backcountry hunt, and especially if they're going into the woods, they're going to be camping and stuff like that. There's a book just from a mental standpoint that I would recommend people check out, but it's called Endurance. It's about Sir William Shackleton. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't, but I'm definitely going to.
Dude, it's amazing. Like I had to go online. Like I wanted the hardcover. Like I listened to it on Audible, and I'm like, I want a copy of that. Like I want to keep a copy of that in my library. I've got it right over here. But this Sir William Shackleton went out, and he was set out to be the first person to like they were gonna like dog sled across the Arctic, and the the ocean froze on him. Boat got frozen, and him and his men were out there for. I don't want to give it away, but it took him. It was 2 years that they were stranded, and just like in one of the things that I think is so great about him is he's just all about this like positive mental mindset. He gave everyone jobs. Like the boat's frozen, they're not even sleeping on the boat anymore. They made these like igloos outside, like on like the ocean that's frozen over. They'd still go in and they'd clean the galley and all the different things. Just like you just have to do things that just give you like some self-worth. So like you say, you go back, you're 6 miles deep and you shoot this deer, and it's like, now we got to get it out. It's like, hey, like this is what you wanted. Like this is, you give yourself that positive talk. I mean, and it applies to all aspects of life. If you talk positive to yourself and you put positivity out into the universe, like good things are going to happen. If you're looking for the good in different situations, like the good's going to find you. If all you see is bad stuff and all just bad things always happen to me, well, that's all that you're going to see. And that's what you're going to draw towards you. So regardless of the situation, whether it's hunting, whether it's life in general, I think it's important for people to just have a positive mindset, and man, will it carry you places that you didn't think you could go.
Oh, 100%. And, yeah, and that's kind of what has created me in a sense. A little backstory. So I actually got into a pretty bad car accident with my mom. I was a junior in high school, and unfortunately was driving, had my license and everything like that. But she wanted to take some rest, and we were coming back from my grandfather's place in Wyoming at the time is where he lived. And we ended up wrecking. I ended up losing control of the car. We rolled 5 times, went like 600 and something feet, ended up on the oncoming side of traffic, laying on the driver's side. And it was a very, very disturbing moment for me in my life, being that young and figuring out how quickly things can turn. Listening to my mom in pain continuously while people are trying to rescue us out of these vehicles, and also just basically walking away without hardly anything. Messed up my arm a little bit and a couple of scratches. And that became a very crucial moment in order for me to say, what are you doing? What are you here for? Not that I was doing anything negligent driving, not that I was, nothing of that situation. I probably was a little too young to be driving on that stretch of highway with the winds and the semis. That's, debatable for a different situation, different time. But nonetheless, it became very apparent to me how I could process what happened, and created a very dark hole for me. It lasted, well, even now, still think about it, have a hard time talking to my mom about it, and just have mental flashbacks essentially. But it just gave me a different outlook on truly what it means to live this life, and how important it is that we tell people we love them, we appreciate them, try to spend time with them when we can, and value that time. Time is the thing we'll never get back, which everyone says that they understand, but it doesn't seem like they act like they understand. It's tough. Like I said, I got into a very dark place. Drugs and alcohol are the first thing you turn to when you want to forget stuff. It made it very difficult for me to move on because you get stuck. And then being dumb, dropping out of 2 different colleges and this and that, kind of got into the workforce, found some amazing people. And again, Charles and my brother James, who have been there for over 23 years now, I give them tremendous credit. My brother Brett, awesome. Again, these men are brothers in this life for a reason, regardless if they come from the same family line or not. And they don't know how much they saved me or how many times they saved me, and all the opportunities that they gave up time with their loved ones to help me get my mind right, which is not on them in the slightest. And, it's just a battle every day. And people need to find that in themselves, figure out where that line needs to be drawn so that way they push themselves. I have it, like I said, I can kind of talk crap to myself. People tell me not to, and it's good for me. It fires me up. I like it. I have a good friend that we go back and forth. We have good banter, and people think it's kind of strange, and they're kind of wondering like, "Whoa, is this boxing glove time or what's going on here?" But that's just, we know the level. We don't cross that line. We draw it in the sand. But it works for me. When I'm on the mountain by myself, the only adversary I have is myself, and I love beating myself up. I love it. I like to push myself. I like to cramp up for the last 3 miles of this blowdown, picking up sheds. I love that. It's good. It hurts, but it's good, because to me, nothing will hurt in comparison to that moment with my mom. I mean, period, point blank. There's nothing that I think I could experience going forward that would be worse than that moment. So bring it on. It's every single day is going to be a fight and a grind, and I don't care anymore. We're going to do it. We're going to wake up and get after it every single day, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, I heard a quote one time that said that if you make friends with pain, you'll never be alone. Now, I don't think you should just sit in it. I think you can do like what you had talked about, where you use it as a driving force.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're a religious guy or not, but I am. And I think that different things happen to us at different times, that God can use us at a certain point in time to be able to help somebody else. And so I know you've given a lot of credit to some of your brothers out there, but I can guarantee you, Nic, that you've helped somebody, whether you know it or not. I know that you've helped lift somebody up. Because that's just, I think that's the way the Lord works, because like certain people have experienced different things in their lives, and it gives them a different experience that somebody else might not be. If there's so many good people out there, but you might not be able to relate with them at all. The way that they live, their upbringing, whatever it is, there's just no connection. But that one person who experienced one thing can touch somebody else's life and help lift them up out of, whether it's depression or whatever it is. Just, I mean, maybe it's just like they've got anger issues, right? And I've experienced anger issues. Like I remember, this is sad, but my boy, he was probably like, I can't remember, like 5, maybe 6. And we went and saw the Avengers, right? We're sitting in the movie theater, and it's the scene where like they're all like in like New York, and like the Incredible Hulk comes driving up, right? And he's on the motorcycle in his human form. And he comes up and he's like, "You want to know my secret, Captain?" And he's like, "I'm always angry." And then he turns and is immediately like the Hulk, and he like smashes that like alien snake thing. My boy leans over to me and he goes, like, he's like, "That's you, Dad." And that was like a shitty thing to hear. And I'm like, that I've had like so much anger and stuff in my life that like my son sees that. And I mean, I wish I could say I went from that moment on and like never had those type of experiences again, but it's not the case. But I do try and live in a way now, like I've grown, matured. I mean, my wife and I, we were young when we had kids. I was still a kid raising kids, and better now, but I've got a great relationship with all of our kids. You know, my wife and I, we've been happily married for 25 years now. We got a granddaughter. We have another granddaughter on the way. And it's like, life is good. And like, I just feel super blessed. And so what I try and do, because I've had a different life than a lot of people, and I've had some things that I've experienced that are pretty terrible, but they've helped me grow as a person and put me in a position to where I can help somebody else. And I think that's the thing, is if you can take like a shitty situation or something terrible that's happened to you, and you can look for the opportunity to maybe bless the lives of others, I think that's where you grow and you're able to get some peace, like in your own life, that come from sharing, the things that troubled you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely, it's different for me, kind of raised in a sense of, don't talk about it, just kind of get through it, grit your teeth. Not that my parents didn't always offer, it's not on them, but it's just other factors around. It was always very much so, no one wants to hear your problems, everyone's got problems type of thing. And, I know for sure there's not very many people that know that story with my mom. And that's just how I like to have it for the longest time. I'm very thankful to Jordan, for being a guiding light in this situation and, really encouraging me to just own up to what it's done to me from that point and then how I've grown from it. There's still a huge amount of growing to be done. And I am very blessed that God has put his hand on my life. January in 2020, actually. And that was an awakening moment, to say the least. Standing in church, listening to the pastor kind of end the day, asking if anyone knows Christ or doesn't feel like they know Christ, if they want to come up. And it was like an epiphany moment, hand on my shoulder, heard it clear as day. It's time. And I just immediately started bawling, and I was so flush, sweating, and, went up, said the sinner's prayer. And not that this road has been easy in the slightest, and the days don't still have clouds on them sometimes. But it's a different feeling of the fact that it's worth it. It's worth it. He's had his hand on my life more than I can realize. He had his hand on my mom's car in that situation. And even though she's, ended up in the hospital for basically 6 weeks on a breathing tube and, busted rib and collapsed lung and this and that. And then he let me walk away with a few scratches. I mean, he's still worked in both of us in that moment. It very well could have been a different outcome completely. And, there have been a lot of great people all over the place that I've seen that he's led them my direction because I needed it. I hope I've been that for somebody because it's not easy. But like I said, it's worth it. You got to live this life as much as you can. And that doesn't mean, strap yourself to a rocket and go for a ride, but, just share moments. That's always meant something to me. And I love moments with new people, enjoying the woods.
Yeah. It's a good place to be able to, like we talked about, spend that quality time and be able to get to really know somebody. I think
put a backpack on their back and you'll find out who they are real quick.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think, there's just a couple things that I'll just share, a couple thoughts that I had as you were sharing that. I think one, when you start to turn yourself over to God and you start seeking Christ, like the devil goes like, uh-oh. I mean, and I think that's where the phrase like work like the devil comes from, because the second if you've been living one way and not having Christ at the center, and then you put him at the center and you start seeking him, that's when the devil goes to work and he starts to put doubt and tries to get you to think that you're not worthy or you're unsavable or all these things. Like that's when they really, I think the demons really start to go to work on you. But it's important just to, like, when you put him at the center and just use him as that guiding light to keep pushing yourself forward, for sure.
Yep.
And I can guarantee you that someone's come across your path that you've been able to help in ways that you don't even recognize. And I think that's the great thing about it is you don't seek that recognition. When you just start wanting to help people just out of the love for humanity, like, you're going to touch people's lives in incredible ways. So, yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that story. I didn't know that had happened with you, and Wasn't expecting to hear that about your mother, but glad that it ended up okay, and sorry that you went through the struggles that you did. But again, I think it's giving you opportunities for you to be able to connect with people in a way
That's
that other
it.
people won't be able to connect.
In our suffering, God has made great, and He will get us through no matter what. He constantly does, and yeah, it's always worth it. People need to know that they're worth it, like you said, 100%. And I have a great buddy Keith that knows it too from me, and I know it from him. Phones are always on. That is never an issue because I don't ever want someone to be felt like they're left in the dark, ever.
For sure. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Nic, as we kind of wrap up here, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners that maybe you think would be beneficial to them? I mean, we kind of took a religious turn here towards the end, but whether it's hunting or just anything in life, like, is there any parting words you'd like to share with folks?
Reach out if you ever need information on Colorado. I'm at my desk pretty much 24/7 for my job. I can get on real quick and look up stats and, use Onyx, whatever the case is. I don't mind helping people. I don't know every unit in the state. I'm not just going to send you a pin that's going to be this magical drop point for you, but I'll put in some research. I don't mind. It helps me in the future. And I'll show up anywhere. The Hush guys and Jordan learned that very quickly. I'm not afraid to drive. For me, it was about a 4.5 hour run north to where they were, roughly about 4.5, 5 hours. And drove around all day looking for spots for them to get into, make sure access was good. I love it. I'm blessed. I'm beyond blessed that I get to hunt more than a couple weekends a year, doing the part-time guiding, being out with people for 10 days straight in the backcountry on horses is there's nothing I enjoy more. I mean, having this day job is a blessing, but I would sacrifice all the money and everything just to do that every single day. And I joke with Cookie that if I ever lay down on the mountain for the final time, just leave me there, grab the gear and get out. So anyone that needs help, any information, you want to get out on a shed hunt, by all means, I love it. I love sharing country with people. I love experiencing that. We'll find some new country to hit because it's getting thin, but no matter what, there's always opportunity. And I'm here for anyone that wants to get out and do it as much as possible. If you only got one weekend, let's schedule something. I can't always guarantee I can make it work, but I will absolutely try. We'll get it on the books eventually. So same for you, man. Anytime you want to come to Colorado, OTC tag, draw, mule deer, elk, whatever, I'll make time for you. Guaranteed.
Appreciate it, brother. Hey, dude, you're a man of the people. That's awesome. Hey, if somebody wants to find you on Instagram, what's your handle?
At Dr. Outdoors 719. And then actually I have a YouTube going, Deep Rooted Outdoors. Definitely check that out. Trying to get that rolling a little bit. Hopefully I'll finish up this website, learning how to do that myself and build it correctly so it looks decent. I'll get that up and let everyone know as well. But yeah, Instagram's kind of the main. So at Dr. Outdoors 719. And then just let me know what you think, and make sure you guys share the love. Let these guys know how awesome they are, how appreciative for letting all of us do and talk about this, even though we talk about it all the time, right? Like we constantly, I mean, I feel like I'm just going nuts of telling the same stories over and over to new people, but truly, man, I appreciate you for what you're doing and giving me the opportunity to be on here. And big time shout out to Jordan and Eric and Matt and everyone that doesn't even realize that they've had an impact on me personally. Big time. Much love and respect always.
Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate the kind words. You're, like I said, man of the people right there. Hey, we'll make sure, check the show notes. We'll put links to his YouTube and his Instagram handle as well. So make sure to go give Nic a follow. Until next time, stay safe. God bless, guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Hunt Stealth Podcast. Hey, I have a favor to ask. If you would and you enjoy this podcast, head on over to wherever you consume it and leave us a review. It's going to help us get this pumped out to more people that might be interested in hearing podcasts like this. Also, we've got 25% off site-wide. So head on over to huntstealth.com, and for every dollar spent, you get entered into the Ultimate Pheasant Hunt Experience giveaway, which is going on now. Elevate your next adventure with blue coolers from Cata Sports, designed to keep your food and drinks ice cold no matter where the journey takes you. With top-tier insulation, rugged durability, and built-in wheels for easy transport, these coolers are the ultimate sidekick for all of your outdoor adventures. Best of all, they deliver unbeatable performance at a price that won't break the bank. Head on over to catasports.com and use promo code Ryan10 to save 10% off your order.